So now we need to create the camera class, and all you need to know about the camera class is that it contains two instance variables, an x offset and a y offset. Alright, so we're going to take this one piece at a time, and the camera class is pretty simple. Right? We're going to go ahead and define a class camera, define a constructor, and it will have two instance variables, x offset, y offset. Initialize them both to 0. And of course, these two values are going to change as the game runs, because we will be running the camera's update method, which will use the ship's position to recalculate the x offset and the y offset. Okay, and so what are we going to be using these two pieces of information for is to know how much to add or subtract from every object that's in the world, meaning all the platforms. Right? How much to add or subtract on the x-axis, how much to add or subtract on the y-axis, so that they are either placed onto this visible screen or they are not placed on this visible screen. Right? And that, of course, is based on the ship's position. So this might be, very confusing at this moment, but just follow along with me. We'll go through it one step at a time. And then once we get the camera to a state where it works correctly, then I'll go ahead and put together a review video that will use some visual aid to cement this, this idea of using a camera to allow a character to exist in a world that is bigger than his visible screen. Right? And just one thing I want to mention before we move forward is that we extended our level to make it bigger. Right? So since we extended our level to make it bigger, our container is now a different height and width. All right? So we need to recalculate the container's rect, right, based on this world's current height and width. Right? So that means we need to create this container after we create the level. Okay? And since we create the container after we create the level, and the ship requires the container, we need to create the ship as well after we create the level. Alright, so let me go ahead and put that next to this, and then I'll go ahead and take these two variables. We'll save that. We'll come down here to the level, and over here for the width of the level, what we can do is we can say level. Yes, level times 32. And for the height, we could say level sub 0 times 32. And so does this all work? Well, what is level, right? Level would refer to this array here, right? That is made up of strings. So if we say level times 32, what we're saying is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So the number of rows that we have here times 32. Okay, and each row here represents a row of blocks that are 32 pixels tall. Right? So that's what we would want to use here. Oh, I'm sorry. That's what we would want to use here for the height. And for the width, we would want to use level sub 0 times 32. And what is level sub 0? That is the first row, right? So the number of characters in the first row times 32. So that would give us how wide our new world is. Okay, and actually let me go ahead and say length here of level sub 0 times 32, and here would be length of level times 32. And so I think that's going to work correctly now. Okay, and so now our camera is not implemented, but you can see in our newly designed world that's bigger, the boundaries still work, right? The side boundary works, the upper boundary works, and if our camera was implemented, you would see that the right side and the bottom side also work. Okay.